Welcome to Snoozecast, the podcast designed to help you fall asleep. On Snoozecast, we read excerpts from public domain works and occasionally original stories. New episodes come out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We'd like to thank our listeners. If you enjoy our show, please follow us on social media, write us a review, and also share it with a friend. The best place to listen to us is on our website, snoozecast.com. That way, you can play a single episode and fall asleep without another one automatically playing. This episode is supported by blocking out time to plan a vacation. Tonight, I'll be reading the opening to the 1912 travel memoir Vistas in Sicily by Arthur Stanley Riggs. Riggs was an American writer and historian. In 1898, he served in the Navy for the Spanish-American War, and decades later served as a librarian for the Office of Censorship during World War II. Let's get cozy. Close your eyes. Relax your body into the softness of your bed. Now, take a few deep breaths. Chapter 1: Discovery. Sicily in spring appeared to us like water in the desert. That we knew nothing of the island was a misfortune we shared in common with most Americans. Such vague ideas as we had were derived mainly from long past school days of wearisome geography and from newspaper accounts of the mafia, whose members seemed always to be Sicilians. But when, after a stormy fortnight among the volcanic dust clouds of a great Vesuvian eruption, we determined to escape that choking atmosphere, the royal road to Rome chosen by the tourists, terrified by the belchings of the volcano, did not appeal to us. Instead, with some trepidation, as explorers entering a wild and dangerous unknown land, we decided upon Sicily. Our baggage packed, and in the hallway, we came out to Gregorio, the cabman, who we had patronized through many a day of work and danger around Vesuvius. "Where now, milords?" He smiled at us cheerily, noting the hand baggage. "To the steamer, Gregorio. To Sicily." "To Sicily!" he exclaimed, dropping his whip in sheer amazement. "Santo Dio! Why?" The haze of volcanic cinders still hanging thickly over Naples was answer enough, with the added explanation, "We must breathe. We must rest." "Yes, but—" His emotions choked him. Here was Naples, deserted by the thousands of foreigners whom a few days of Vesuvian bellowings had frightened into abject panic. Cabs rusted at the street corners by scores, and now he, too, was to be idle. It was too much. Not even the promise of engagement upon our return could dispel the gloom that had wiped away his smile. Gia, he grunted darkly, shaking his head. If the signore ever return? Who knows, per Bacco. Sicilians are mala gente, brigands, murderers. It was too late to withdraw, notwithstanding Gregorio's cheerful prophecy, and he drove us to the wharf, a mournful figure drooping upon his box. And we sailed on Friday the 13th, at 13 minutes past 6. But whether it was because of lack of respect for either fateful numbers or hoary nautical superstition, or because of skill upon the bridge, the swift and trim little Galileo Galilei brought us pleasantly in the glorious dawn to Sicily, and an hour later Palermo, the capital, shimmered through the smoky mists veiling its golden shell. It was an easy and a delightful voyage, the steamer clean, the sea smooth. But if one is seafaring instead of seafaring, he may go comfortably from Naples by train, via Reggio and the Strait of Messina, only 2 miles across by ferry. Or, if he be a sea-roving globetrotter, he may take one of the numerous Mediterranean liners leaving New York the year round, and make the trip without a single change all the way to Palermo. And these vessels are so large and so steady that the trip is robbed of half its terrors to the most timid soul. But if money is an object, it is better to go by way of Italy, where little commutation books for Sicilian travel, called tessere, are to be obtained. Each tessera is a small pocket coupon book sold in every large city, from Rome southward, from February to June. The book contains detachable coupons which entitle the holder to a discount ranging all the way from 10 to 75% in the cost of transportation, food, lodging, merchandise, and amusements in the theaters. They cost 10 lira, which was $2 apiece, and it is necessary only to fill out a given leaf with the date, the names of the stations to and from which the holder wishes to travel, and to present it at the station to obtain the discount on accommodations in any class desired on railway trains and steamers. A saving so large may be effected by its use that the transportation cost of the trip melts almost into insignificance. It seems too good to be true, but there is a reason for it. Count Florio, of the Florio Rubattino Steamship Company, one of the most public-spirited men in Sicily, to popularize the island as a place of resort, to stimulate local travel in the best months of the year, and so to augment the revenues of both people and island, persuaded the government to grant special rates on its railways by giving a 60% discount on his own private steamers. Various large stores, theaters, cafes, and hotels perceived the reason in his argument and quickly followed his example. Moreover, as the annual sporting reunion is held in Palermo during the late winter, it was felt, as proved to be the case, that inducements in the way of discounts on the cost of everything would considerably increase the patronage and make the annual games and races much more a feature of the island than ever before. Curiously enough, for a people so fond of red tape, the Sicilians have not smothered the tesserae with senseless regulations. The concierge of your hotel can fill out and present the book for you when you wish to leave a city. The railroad ticket agent is not concerned with anything but your signature. And there are no difficulties about photographs as identification. But woe to the person who gives his tessera to a careless concierge. Half a dozen others may have done the same thing at the same time, and the tesserae have become mixed. Unless one wishes to forge the usually almost indecipherable Italian name on the little green leaves, no ticket is forthcoming, no matter how fluent the explanation given, and a new book becomes a necessity. These winter and spring months are ideal for travel in this Mediterranean isle. In every age, Sicily's climate has been sung as halcyon, and in the days when Cicero was quaestor under the Roman rule, he did not exaggerate greatly when he said that there is never a day when the sun does not smile at least once. Not even Mentone or the other resorts along the Riviera can boast of a warmer or more sensuous charm than Sicily. January, which is the worst and rainiest month of the Sicilian winter, is very like the first 2 weeks of May in the northern part of Europe. And a short time later, when travel begins to waken the island, the sun shines clear and hot. An overcoat is wholly unnecessary, except in the evening. Ripe and green fruit and blossoms are to be seen at the same time on the orange and lemon trees, and by April the scraggy old olive trees bend under the weight of their dull green fruit, just beginning to blush with purple. The air is full of the scent of myriad flowers, and the railway tracks, sometimes for miles, run between hedges of geraniums, 6 to 8 feet high, whose pungent fragrance fills the flying trains. The summer climate is as mild and salubrious as that of the winter, for even in July and August the average is not more than 77 or 78 degrees Fahrenheit, about the same as in our own Atlantic states. Occasionally, during one of the African siroccos that sometimes sweep across the island, the mercury rises to 100 or so, but the sirocco is a rare occurrence, fully as apt to occur in midwinter as in summer. In a climate of this sort, the jaded city dweller, searching for health and rest, finds an ideal environment. And while the hotels are not the equals of the fashionable New York and London hostelries, they are comfortable and moderate in price, and many of them have splendid gardens attached, where one may have tea, or rest and wander at will among the scented bowers. One boasts a considerable aviary, and another, perched at the very edge of a precipitous crag, serves refreshments upon a stone promenade with the blue African Mediterranean right below, and the peaks of the dark continent faintly suggesting themselves through the mists of the horizon. Many of the best known of these hostelries are located at historic spots where history and imagination can conjure up the past vividly, aided, perhaps, by a too generous dinner. More than one traveler has fought the siege of Taormina all over again in his post-prandial dreams, and gone tumbling down the 900-foot slopes with the Greek tyrant, to wake up on the stony floor of his own bedroom. Notwithstanding, the food is good, except in the more remote districts where goat's flesh is usually the literal piece de resistance. In many of the hill centers, the wine of the country, the vin ordinaire, as the French put it, is remarkably pure and good, while for general attractiveness and cleanly condition, the hotels as a class rank very well indeed. Not so much can be said for the servants, for the Sicilian accepts dirt as a thing given of God, and therefore not to be too severely quarreled with under any circumstances. Yet he does his best to live up to the finicky notions of the foreigner who, to his unprejudiced eye, is so jaundiced. And the Sicilian's best, in his efforts to please the stranger, is a very warm-hearted and genial best indeed, full of cheery smiles, of the utmost willingness to fetch and carry, of entire devotion, sometimes to the point of doing actual violence for his patron. It's characteristic of the people, indeed, that having so long served for nothing, they should welcome the chance to serve for their own profit and pleasure combined, and the service is as pleasant to reward as it is to receive. Furthermore, the reward need not by any means always take the form of cash. In Italy, everywhere one goes, it is always tip, 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 but in Sicily, it is a delight to learn that one often secures as much for a smile and a gracious word of thanks as for a cash gratuity. In fact, tips are not infrequently refused. I shall never forget the expression that crossed the face of a schoolboy to whom I once offered half a lira, 10 cents, for some trifling service. There was hurt pride in the rich brown eyes upturned to mine as the dirty little paw waved away the coin without a word. Another time, in the course of a detailed exploration of a prominent agricultural school in Palermo, the young priest in charge remonstrated with me, half in amusement, half in indignation, because, "You offered my mamma money," to the apologetic remark that it is very hard to know when not to offer money, since everyone elsewhere in Italy expects it. The young philosopher, as cordial and proud as he was abjectly poor, himself helped to one of my cigarettes with a neat word of thanks, and replied, "Ah, but here it is different. We are a simple, kindly folk in Sicily, always ready to do whatever we can for the well-mannered foreigner. And friend, when you go out, do not try to corrupt my boys with money," was his parting admonition regarding tips for any of his pupils. This picturesqueness of character extends to face and costume as well, and in the remoter places the dress and faces of the ancients may be observed, striking a curious note of contrast with the exceedingly modern and well-apparelled folk of the larger centers. Only 15 miles by carriage from Palermo, back in the mountains at Piana dei Greci, an Albanian colony founded during the latter part of the 15th century. The peasants still hold during festival time to their rich and exceedingly beautiful costumes of embroidered silken gowns and breeches heavily picked out with gold. And a costume wedding can usually be arranged for the benefit of the interested visitor, who is expected to pay the officiating priest and make a modest gift to the newly married young couple. But ancient or modern though the costume be, the demeanor of the wearer is almost invariably the same, courteous and respectful, one might even say eager, to give nothing but pleasure to the stranger. And this is true even of the cab drivers. We had come to Sicily weary to exasperation of the importunities and rascality of the Neapolitan Jehus. Gregorio was a smiling exception. To our delight, we found ourselves able to take a ride in Palermo of half a mile or more in a clean, well-kept barouche, drawn by a well-fed little Arab stallion for 10 cents, and no tip necessary or expected. The prices for longer excursions were on the same basis, and for weeks we had the services of a cab, a magnificent horse, and the peerless Gualterio for about $2 a day, including what to the Sicilian mind was a generous gratuity, and the carriage ran sweetly, as Gualterio assured us it would, nor was it, in his own words, dirty like some. Of course, the Sicilian cabman, for all his courtly manners and engaging smile, his soft voice, and his continual appeal to the ladies. The lady would like a ride, as she usually did, to the enrichment of the cabby. It's not much more to be relied upon for facts or as a guide than his brethren in Naples or anywhere else in the world. The first time we saw one of the numberless slender stone towers that dot Palermo from end to end, rising to a height of about 20 feet, covered with fine vines and dripping countless tiny streams of water. Gualterio smiled angelically.